It's very nice to have this opportunity. I want to thank Mickey and the Buddhist YouTube channel for inviting me to offer a talk this morning. I'm here at Zen Mountain Monastery. We're a Zen Buddhist monastery in upstate New York, maybe 3 hours north of New York City. And it's a beautiful summer day here. And so I hope you are well as you're listening to this. I wanted to speak a little bit about a very important teaching in Mahayana Buddhism, which is Buddha nature. Buddha nature is your enlightened mind that is already present. When the Buddha Shakyamuni had his enlightenment experienced, he realized that all of us, every human being, has the same essential nature, the same Buddha nature, the same enlightened nature. But because of our attachments and our desires and our false views, we don't see it. It's the example or the metaphor of the sun, which shines brightly in all directions and shines its sunlight on everything, but it gets covered up by clouds. And so it's a very familiar metaphor to describe how our own enlightened mind seems to become covered up by our confusion, by our doubts, by our emotions, strong emotions, by our judgments, our strong attachments to our beliefs. But all the while, Buddha nature is there, just like the sun is always shining, even if we can't see it. When we, as people, when we experience disappointment, we're sad, we want something that we don't succeed, we experience failure. When we experience ourselves as being separate from other people, from situations, from our own lives, then we can come to the idea or the conclusion that there's something within us that is lacking, that somehow we're in some essential way missing something. There's something that's incomplete in us that is the cause of our sadness or a disappointment. And so we go looking, we have desires, we go looking for something to satisfy and to fill that sense of something missing. And of course, this sets up the whole cycle we call samsara, where there's a desire, we go looking to satisfy that desire, maybe we achieve that, but then the pleasure we get from that only lasts for a little bit. And then we're back into that feeling of being incomplete. And so we go looking again, and that cycle just keeps returning and returning. That can also make us feel very insecure. It can cause us to doubt ourselves. Maybe something is wrong with us, right? That this is happening. We look around, maybe other people seem happier, more successful, and we doubt ourselves. A Japanese Zen master, Eihei Dogen, in the 13th century of Japan, taught this. He said, without exception, everyone is a vessel of the Buddha Dharma. Never think that you are not a vessel. If you practice according to the teaching, you will release all of your attachments. You will untangle all of your entanglements. You will be able to open your heart and awaken to Buddha mind. And then he went on to say, since you have this mind, this Buddha mind, you can distinguish good from evil, know the difference between right and wrong. You can practice the Buddhist precepts, the wholesome actions. He says, you have hands and feet, so you lack nothing for practicing what in our tradition we call gasho, a sign of respect and reverence, or practicing walking meditation. we can do this because we have hands and feet. He said, you have the body of a Buddha, so you can definitely practice meditation. So he says, so therefore, don't be concerned with whether you are capable of or not. In other words, you have the body of a Buddha. You have the mind of a Buddha, which means we can do the practices of a Buddha and awaken our Buddha nature, our enlightened nature. And when we reflect on this, it can really help us to have faith, so that even when we may feel insecure or doubting ourselves, or we feel like we're missing something, something is missing, right? We don't have enough. We're not smart enough. We're not spiritual enough. We don't practice hard enough, right? Or maybe we've done things in our lives that weigh heavily on us, and we think those things will prevent us from being able to be a good practitioner of Buddhas, of the Buddha Dharma. And Dogen is saying, no, have faith in yourself, that you have the body and mind of a Buddha, and that what you seek, what we seek, all of us want to be happy. All of us want to feel like our lives are purposeful, meaningful. All of us want to be able to be compassionate and without anger and fear. And so Buddha nature, when we reflect on Buddha nature, it helps us to turn inward and find it inside rather than trying to find it outside by grasping at things. In the Zen tradition, we say, do not put a head on top of the one you already have. You already have a head, right? That works perfectly. Why would you put another one on top? So when we go looking for something else, someone else, to make us feel a certain way or to save us, that's like putting another head on top of our own. And so I think that the practice of meditation is one of the most powerful ways in which we can cultivate this faith in our Buddha nature. That when we sit in the posture of a Buddha with our legs crossed and our hands folded, and we lower our eyes, we turn inward, we concentrate on the breath. We practice letting go, letting go, letting go. We face thoughts or emotions or memories that sometimes can be very difficult, but we learn how to not try and deny them or suppress them, because that only causes more suffering. But we also develop our capacity to not cling and grasp. And so when those things arise, we're able to just see them with a very clear eye, a very open, awake eye, right? And then to let go. And that takes a lot of courage. It also takes a lot of trust and faith. And so every time we practice meditation and we practice in this way, we're developing, cultivating that faith. Another metaphor in Buddhism that's very popular is of the garden, that you go out and you prepare the ground, right? You pull up all the weeds and then you drop seeds and you cover the ground and you water them carefully. And then you let sunlight shine on them and you go out and you water them each day and you pull the weeds and you nurture those seeds, and then they sprout and they grow and they become very strong. And that in a sense, that's what our meditation is doing. And so to try and have a meditation practice is very, very powerful and very accessible. We can do this because we have the body of a Buddha. And so Dogen says, Master Dogen says, when you are without a divided heart, then you are in accord with the Buddha way. And so to reflect on how do we divide ourselves, right? We might want to follow the precepts, but then we don't. We might want to practice meditation, but then we don't. We might want to have more patience, but then we get impatient. And so what we're trying to do is bring this together, the inner and the outer, our aspiration and our intention to practice the Buddha way, and then to actually do that, right? So that we're not divided, right? We're not in conflict with ourselves. And the more we do that, the easier it becomes, right? Easier and easier. Buddhism is the middle way, right? The middle path. And so it's the middle path between denying and suppressing, and between grasping and clinging. It's the middle way between being attached to success, right? Or being fearful of failure. It's the middle way between holding too tight or being too loose, right? So we can think of all of these different ways that we see in our lives that we swing too far on one side, and then maybe we let go, but now we swing too far on the other side, right? And so the middle way is very, very powerful, right? And it's not so much just a matter of balance, although balance is good, but it's deeper, right? It's more profound, right? Because it's really going beyond, leaping free of the idea of this and that, right? Of success and failure, and recognizing that all of those things are things that we create in our mind. We construct ideas about success and failure. And so a common way that students create an idea of success and failure is with regards to their meditation. Several years ago, I was talking to my mother, who was about 92 at the time, a wonderful, wonderful person. And she was talking about meditation, and because she has practiced meditation, but she said, I'm no good at meditation. I'm not a good meditator. And I said, Mom, so many people believe they're not a good meditator. Usually it's because they have an idea of what good meditation means, right? They have an idea that if I meditate, that means I should not be thinking, I should not be distracted, I should feel a certain way, I should feel peaceful or calm, right? My body should be comfortable. Many ideas. But actually, if we let go of those ideas, most of the time, our meditation is good, is fine. I meet many students, I talk to many, many students, and very often they say their meditation is no good. But when I talk to them, I say, no, actually, your meditation is fine. It's your ideas about your meditation that are causing you problems. You have ideas about meditation and you put them in front, right? In front of you, between you and your meditation. And then that idea, right? Like a mirror reflects back and tells you something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. Your meditation is fine. You should trust it. And so this is a very important part of Buddhist practice, is seeing how our thoughts, our ideas, we tend to think that because something comes up in our mind, like an idea, it must be true, right? Or we're sitting in meditation and we have some awareness, right? And because we just have that awareness, we think it must be true, right? Because we didn't decide to have that thought. We didn't decide to have that judgment. But actually, those thoughts and judgments are just a result of our past karma. We have learned how to think. We have learned how to feel. We have learned how to perceive and experience things. And then our society and the world around us tells us what those thoughts and emotions mean. So when we're sitting meditation and we see our mind become distracted, what is true is just simply that our mind has wandered away from the breath. That's all. But our mind adds meaning and says, oh, this is not good. This is bad. You're not a good meditator. You shouldn't be distracted. And so our mind adds meaning to something that's very simple. And then it becomes very heavy, very complicated. And so in meditation, what we're trying to do is return back to this very simple level, plain, like water. Water is a miracle, right? We couldn't live without it. It runs all through us. It's the most amazing thing in the world, right? Water. And yet it's so simple, so plain. And our mind is like that. Buddha mind is like that. The Buddha's enlightened mind is very, very clear, very bright. And so our Buddha nature is our capacity to practice that mind, that bright, clear mind, and to open the heart of, in Mahayana Buddhism, we speak of Kanon Bodhisattva, or Kuan Yin in Chinese, or Avalokiteshvara in Sanskrit. This great Bodhisattva of compassion, right, who hears all the cries of the world and responds. And that's us, that's you, right? That you have that heart, you have that compassion within you. And that when we practice with compassion, then that compassion becomes stronger. And so what does that mean? So when you're practicing meditation, or when you're just going through your day and something happens and you judge yourself very harshly, right? And you scold yourself, you get angry at yourself. Usually that's not going to be compassionate, right? And so we're actually training ourselves in those moments to not be compassionate. So if you're meditating and your mind becomes distracted and you just notice that, oh, I lost my attention, and you let go and you come back to the breath, very plain, very simple, that's compassion, right? Or when you feel very sad or you feel very angry and you meet that emotion in loving kindness, right? And you don't grasp at it, but you don't suppress it. That's compassion, right? So you're meeting that anger compassionately. And so you're training your mind in compassion in that moment, right? So Buddhism is often described as a practice of not creating harm, doing all that is good, and training the mind. And that's why the meditation is so important. Okay, so I think in closing, I would just like to say that Master Dogen again once taught, if you want to awaken to your enlightened nature, to your enlightened mind, you have to be a person who has this enlightened mind. And then he said, you already are a person with such an enlightened mind. You have Buddha nature. So don't worry about enlightenment, right? Because you already have that Buddha nature. So there's no need to worry. We just practice, right? So thank you very much. I hope this is helpful in some way. And I hope that your life goes well and that your practice, being interested in Buddha Dharma or practicing the Buddha Dharma is considered a wonderful good fortune, that we're very fortunate to have found our way to the Dharma. And I just encourage you to keep watering that garden, to keep encouraging that heart that is seeking the Dharma, right? And let it become very strong and vibrant. Thank you very much. May your life go well.